So I bet there's a couple of things that you didn't know about yourself. And I'll tell you that, coming from my background and my life so far. This isn't in any way meant to be like a instructional thing. In fact, and I'm going to touch on this later, this is more of a memoir for myself, as most of us say this. All right, first and foremost, if you haven't already, and if you don't on a daily basis, you need to pull your phone out and you need to create content. I'm not saying become the next TikTok superstar or YouTube sensation. I'm not saying post videos of your private life for everyone to see. No, but post. Share a picture, if you have to, of a blue sphere or a purple pony, pink elephant, whatever the fuck you want. Just share a picture, send it out there. Because if you haven't done that yet, you'll understand that that is an outlet for you to express yourself in a way you've never had before. And you'll see how quickly you become addicted to it, not in a bad sense, in like a good sense, because you need outlets that you haven't realized. What you don't realize even further is by doing so, you're not only perpetuating your own self-improvement, but you're also helping other people that are creating as stepping stones for other ideas. That's what I do. For instance, I can scroll through videos until I see something simple, and then I'll take that simplicity at 6 a.m. and make that into an epiphany for me and for other people as well. But for that simple thought to have happened, somebody would have had to have shared it or expressed it, created it. So that's first and foremost. See, oftentimes we tend to neglect and overlook the most fundamental and rudimentary things that make us who we are. Let's talk about things we ingest, for instance. I would say off the top of my head, the two things that human beings ingest more than anything else is water and salt. Obviously food and blah, 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 but essentially water and salt. Let's stick to those two because those are really, really important for what I'm about to say. Water is obvious because you're 70% water. Salt is kind of your body's way of keeping the water that is there, among other things. You know, with neuron plasticity and communications with electricity has to do with salt. And that's how your cells communicate, essentially. Most people eat something called iodide salt, which is just regular table grain salt. Luckily, with the whole movement of, you know, like organic stuff and this micro artisan stuff, people are expanding their palates, so to speak. But for this particular exercise, you need to put your ego aside. All right, and I'm telling you this because I was in a profession for a long time where I had to use my sense of taste for everything. That was my well-being, it was my money, everything. And I could tell you that a lot of things that mesh well with you don't essentially mesh well with everyone else. Here's what I mean. Blindfold yourself and do a blind study of 7 salts. Take distilled water, 7 cups, shot glasses if you have, and 7 different salts. I'll put them in the description below. This is the thing. The one, and this, I don't give a fuck what anyone says about anything. I don't care if you're a doctor or scientist. In fact, I hope shit, please call me out. I know you guys are going to agree. I'm not a doctor, but I just know this is a fact. Blindfold yourself, and with distilled water, the salt that tastes the best to you, and that's the most important. If you're a person that says salt is salt and water is water, they all taste the same. You've got a lot to learn, and you're going to be surprised about how much you're going to change your life if you continue watching this video. The salt that tastes the best to you, and that's when you'll realize what I mean, is the one that you should use at your house. Until maybe 3-4 months from then, you do the same thing and something else comes up. Your body is naturally adapted to demand what is deficiencies. Demand its deficiencies. So if you're low on folic acid, you're gonna start craving beets and steak and shit. You know, what the fuck? Yeah, so the thing is about you putting your ego aside is that not everyone is going to blind pick the fleur de sel from France. Maybe your body's low in iodide, so you're gonna pick the table salt that's iodided. The thing is when they say it's optimal, it's best. When it's optimal for the masses, it's optimal for the most people that can consume it and vibe on it together. So you have to sell a bunch of it. So you have to make a general blanket salt, so to speak, for everyone to ingest and kind of like take the thing, but specifically to you, depending upon how you're physiologically, well-being, or how you feel, metabolism, science, please, science nerds, thank you. Your body's going to demand what you need. And now here's the thing. You can't control the salt that you consume in other foods for the most part. There's salt everywhere. But if you replace all the salt in your house with the salt that tastes best to you, your entire metabolism, well-being, and overall communication of cells and everything will improve, because salt is huge with other compounds dissolved in it, and you'll see what I mean. But you can put your ego aside, because the thing that you might taste best to you might not taste best to everybody. Fuck what everyone else thinks. This is what I'm saying. Fuck what everyone else thinks. All right? The second thing is water. Water is the same thing. So you could do a blind test with all the waters that I'll give you. I'll give you 7 waters and 7 salts. And then you see which one works best for you. Distilled water is something of like a teeter-totter. Some people say gallons of it a day is good. Other people say don't drink it because it leaches minerals from your body to maintain its equilibrium. So because water makes up everything that we are and everything that we know, we kind of owe it a little bit of gratitude, debt, of life. So basically, when water is distilled, anything you put it in, other than that it'll leach chemicals, minerals to make a homeostasis balance. It needs total dissolved solids in water naturally. Distilled water rarely happens unless it's in the strata ionosphere. Science, please, thank you. So the salt and the water, change those two things. And then after that, you'll understand what I mean by developing a specific and detailed, but most importantly, accountable standard for you. So a perfume maker, right? A person that works on developing perfumes and scents for Chanel starts at around $150,000. There's a company that actually pays senior perfumers $2,000 more than juniors. They both start over $200,000. There's a reason for that. The reason for that is because the companies like Chanel and the top 12 of the perfume industry that pretty much have 70% of the entire market have the money to spend on people that know what the fuck they're doing. The reason they have money to spend is because their cologne or perfumes are worth a shit. Now, what I mean by standard brand is this is how I developed this little niche I'm about to give you. When I was about 16, 17, my dad, my stepfather, had this cologne. And every time he would spray it, my God, something in the back of my neck would just stand up. I was like, amazing scent. Never forgotten it. I stole it from him then, and I've never looked back. I'm pretty sure since then he's changed his style, and I've still kept mine. And I've gotten this perfume, it's not a perfume, it's cologne or eau de toilette, from a myriad of different places. Amazon, Canal Street, the real stolen shit, and then the fake knockoff shit. I've gotten it off of, the mall, anywhere. And then I've gotten it from the actual manufacturer, which happens to be Chanel. And the reason I like this cologne so much, I keep saying perfume, cologne so much, is because the bottle that I get is the larger one. So one spritz of that, and it's fumigating the whole fucking forest. Like, if you're going to spritz and go, you're going to have to spritz and then glide into it. You know what I mean? It's not like a type of thing. But the thing is about it is if you fold your clothes when you're doing your laundry, then you do the Abercrombie and Fitch technique, although I'm pretty sure I had it before they did, but whatever. Who's counting? You spray your cologne on the clothes as you're folding them. And then the day after the cologne settles in a little bit, it's a completely different scent. And this is what separates the men from the boys, because the knockoff brands, the Amazons, the ones that are diluted with water, never going to have that retaining second day smell that Chanel will. And the only way to get that is from the Chanel website. Listen, if you like the whole, gaudy fucking black envelopes that's great. But have a standard. Yes, it's an expensive bottle of cologne. Yeah, it's like $200 or $150. But first of all, it's going to last you an entire year, probably, unless you go out every night. And two, you don't have to have a myriad of different... First of all, you're not a woman. And if you are a woman, great, do your thing. I don't know anything about that. But I think as a dude, you should have at least one. And then just stick to that. If you want to have like a little, grapefruit, have some fun with some grapefruit, a little issei miyake for the fucking summertime, that's great. But just pick a scent and then get this. So like those like bird whatever nonsense that they sell you, these little tube shooters of like the thing every month, and then you spray to see if you like it. Use that if you have to pick the scent that you like, and then go for the gold. No, I'm not saying don't buy the fucking $7,000 bottle Creed unless you can afford it and you like it. Again, this is one of those things that you should blindly test without passing judgment on yourself or what you're wearing. Listen, one of the first scents that I've ever loved was White Musk by Jovan Ginseng. It's called Jovan Ginseng White Musk. It's like a Walgreens. And then since then, I've tried White Musk from all kinds of things. And it's, you know what? Still, Perry Ellis. There's this, back in the day, Perry Ellis makes this cologne. I think it's pretty much the only one I've ever made. And when I was a kid, I used to sneak out of my house, play the Mission Impossible theme by Limp Bizkit, and spray this Perry Ellis cologne on my cut off finger gloves. I remember being nervous. Years later, I was working at a odd job, it's called, like this department store. And I saw the bottle of cologne and I was like, oh shit, that's right. So I pulled it out and I sprayed it on myself. And I got nervous. But it was that specific combination of oils and fragrance that made it what it is. But the day after effect is what I'm talking about. Set a standard for yourself with that. There's certain things that you shouldn't splurge. You shouldn't be frugal with. Certain things that you could. Don't have to splurge. And things like, for instance, if you're, I'm going to use a woman in this example, but like, if you're a woman, you don't need a $3,000 Chloe purse. If you can afford it, by all means. But instead of taking all that money and spending it on a purse, although I do understand this appeal and I understand how many people talk about it, and it's Chloe's calf skin, I get it. I would, if I were you, you could spend that money on something that you use functionally as well as just for show. So for instance, if you have 20 grand left in your bank account and you really want a wristwatch, I would maybe like skip the wristwatch and get boots, or because you don't need a wristwatch. Nobody needs a wristwatch. You're not going camping, and if you are, you don't need a Rolex. But if you want to do something right, do it right. And if your house looks like shit and you're a slob but you wear Chanel, who gives a fuck? Now, personally, I can tell you that with a decent palate for a person in the culinary industry, I could blind taste test, and I have, this is how I know this, as many times as you'd like, and I'll pick the salt that I like every single time because I do it once every 2 months. So every 60 days, I do a blind test, taste test, and I see what my body's demanding in terms of salt and in terms of water. Sometimes my body demands, my smart water is still more delicious. Smart water tastes thicker to me sometimes, and Fiji's thin. And then the essential, the ionized, high alkali water sometimes is good, and it's different because your body changes, just like seasons change, just like everything does, right? So now, set a standard, basic things. Don't buy a Rolex when you're walking around in shitty boots. Spend the money on the boots. Forget about the watch. Use the boots to walk over to somebody and ask them what fucking time it is. You know what I mean? Use it wisely. You know what I mean? You might have a, $100,000 car, yada, yada, yada. But my God, that motherfucker knows how to dress, and he doesn't give a fuck about what anybody says. Pick a style. And I'm 37 now. Almost 40, for Christ's sake. And I'm just starting to figure this shit out now because I didn't have anyone like this to tell me these things. I mean, I've had girlfriends pick out outfits for me. My mom is like crazy into all this fashion stuff, but she's a woman. I'm a guy. It wasn't really like a dynamic. And my dad is very, very Soviet Union. And then the other one is actually in the Soviet Union. But so they're not very like fashionable, but style is not about fashion. Style, much like creation, which I started this video with, is about self-expression first and foremost. And then as a stepping stone for other creators to use those ideas that are rudimentary to you, but can mean a breakthrough to someone else's life. So for instance, people that are listening to this video, they never even thought of it, salt and water and cologne before, could now be like, I mean, like, I'm not wrong, but maybe it'll turn a stepping stone. And those small changes, because you ingest water and salt and usually use cologne or something like that all the time, little do you know, they're going to have a huge impact on your life. And for the love of God, create and hold yourself accountable, even if it's sharing one picture, because you need that outlet. And by the way, creators, all of you, I'm just like you. You are not the person you were when you started this. You're not even the person you were when you started this video. But like all of us, or most of us say, and I thought I was the first one to come up with this, but obviously I'm not, is we all say that, originally you started this as a memoir to myself. Like it's a journal to myself, and then other people like it. Listen, that's great. And that's how mine started too, honestly. But hold yourself accountable to that. Don't tell people that this is a memoir to yourself and you've never seen your first video, other than you reposting it 10 years ago. Do it. Make it a memoir to yourself. Learn about what you were feeling. Remember that notion that you were when you posted that video, what you were thinking, how you're different, and how you've kept yourself to that standard that you set, or change them. But by God, do it. Because if not, you're just a ship with the throttle on full, with no captain, no crew, and no anchor.